Coming to you from deep inside the bowels of a great big empty. Get ready for another episode of The Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
Hello, American families. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Home Defense Show. I'm your host, Skip Coryell, and if you love your family, care about them deeply, and want to learn how to protect them in every facet of your life, then you've come to the right place. We've got a great show for you today, and I know that you're going to love it. What do we got today? Well, in segments 2 and 3, we have got Mark Walters, the host of Armed American Radio. That's a syndicated show. He's on over 200 stations all over the country. Mark's been a good friend of mine for many, many years, so it'll be good to talk to him again. We also have Inside Skip's Brain, and then we are going to respond to some email on Open Carry that we got, and we will also be talking about what is in the news. Okay, first up, we have got Inside Skip's Brain. What is going on in my life? Well, the weather obviously affects everyone, and it has been cold. We're talking like bone cold, crazy cold. It's just nuts, and the older I get, the more the cold affects me. But hey, I'm hanging in there like a trooper. Here we are up here in Michigan, and it's just really, really cold. Little story about my chickens. We have been selling the eggs, or actually I haven't. My 8-year-old son, Phoenix, and my 11-year-old son, Cedar, have been selling brown eggs. We've got like 22 hens, 22, 23 hens, and they were laying, about 18 eggs a day. And then the cold set in, and we went down to 1 or 2 eggs a day. But it's starting to warm up again, so they're laying eggs again. But they are just, they're walking around the neighborhood, knocking on doors and selling their eggs. And they're doing pretty good. And, what person, what red-blooded American of any standing at all can resist an 8-year-old asking you to support his college fund by buying a dozen brown eggs? And so they're doing a fantastic job with that, and I'm proud of them both. But I went out there this morning to the chicken coop, and I saw a big hawk sitting on the fence post right over the top of the chicken coop. And I looked down into the chicken coop, and all the chickens are inside the coop, obviously. And I thought, I wonder what that hawk is doing. Could he be waiting to eat one of my chickens? Or maybe he's already eaten one of my chickens. I don't know. But I'm not one to overreact. So I just walked up to the chicken coop, and I looked up at the hawk, and he looked at me. He didn't say anything, but I said, Mr. Hawk, my name is Skip Coryell. I own this property, and you are trespassing, and I'd like you to leave right now. And the hawk just looked at me, and I said, didn't you hear me? I would like you to leave right now. And he waited a second. He cocked his head to one side, and then I was surprised when he started talking to me. He said, well, Mr. Coryell, first off, I want to thank you very much for feeding these chickens, because I'm going to kill one of them, and I'm going to eat them. So I appreciate that. And I interrupted him. I said, I don't mean to be rude, but you're going to eat my chickens. He said, well, yeah, absolutely. It's a hawk. It's what I do. I'm a predator, so therefore I'm going to eat your chickens, and I just want to thank you in advance. And I said, no. You're not going to eat my chickens. And he just looked at me and laughed, and he says, well, how do you propose to stop me? And I said, well, I'm sure I can think of something, but let's hope that we can reason through this, come to a gentleman's agreement so that it doesn't come to that. And this hawk, he was just cocky as can be, and he said, nothing you can say will deter me from eating your chickens. And he said, I have a right to those chickens. I'm a hawk, I'm a predator, it's what I do. I was born to eat those chickens. And I said, are you sure there's nothing I can do to persuade you? And he says, no, nothing comes to mind. And I said, is that your final answer? He said, yep, that's my final answer. So I just reached down and with my right hand and I pulled my jacket back and I revealed my firearm. And, that hawk, oddly enough, got a deer in the headlights look. He looked at my gun and he says, excuse me, but is that a firearm? I said, well, yeah, absolutely. It sure is. It's a 9mm and you're about 6 feet away from me. I'm thinking you're a pretty good target right now. And he says, now, can't we be civilized? Let's talk about this. And I said, I'm sorry, Mr. Hawk, but I'm done talking. I'm going to ask you one more time nicely to leave my property. And the hawk, God bless him, said, you know what, sir, I think there's been a mistake, and this isn't the property that I originally wanted to go to, and so I've decided that I'm going to leave and go to your neighbor's house. And I said, well, okay, Mr. Hawk, it was nice talking to you. Thank you for listening to reason, and you have a nice day and fly safely. And he just nodded his head, and he launched himself up, and his wings started beating, and he flew away. And it's so nice when two animals, human and bird, can reason with each other, can talk, can be polite, because an armed society is a polite society. And, it was the perfect ending to a good story. I got my eggs, my chickens lived, and the hawk, well, he'll have to go out and kill a rabbit. Not quite as easy as my chickens, but hey, he made a good choice. It was a good career move on his part, I think. And that's how it goes, so my chickens are safe now, and I'm very happy about that. That wasn't exactly how the story happened, but you fill in the blanks. All right, what do we have now? Let's look at the news. I noticed, I've been following this Cliven Bundy story for years now. For about 3 years I've been following that story. And here today I see on Fox News charges against rancher Cliven Bundy and 3 others are dismissed. A federal judge dismissed all charges against the rancher Cliven Bundy, his 2 sons, and another man on Monday. U.S. District Judge Gloria Navarro cited flagrant prosecutorial misconduct in her decision to dismiss all charges against the Nevada rancher and 3 others. I got to tell you, folks, that did my heart good because I've known about this story for a long time. And it just seemed to me that the federal government under Barack Obama, it was government overreach. It was terrible what he was doing to this family, and I didn't like it at all, and a lot of other people didn't like it either. Judge Navarro on December 20th declared a mistrial in the high-profile Bundy case. It was only the latest stunning development in the saga of the Nevada rancher and served as a repudiation of the federal government. Navarro accused prosecutors of willfully withholding evidence from Bundy's lawyers in violation of the federal Brady Rule. Here's a quote from Judge Andrew Napolitano. Either the government lied, or its actions were so grossly negligent as to be tantamount to lying. I think they lied. The Brady Rule, named after the landmark 1963 Supreme Court case known as Brady v. Maryland, holds that failure to disclose such evidence violates a defendant's right to due process. This article is on foxnews.com today. The 71-year-old Cliven Bundy's battle with the federal government eventually led to what became known as the Bundy Standoff of 2014, but it began long before that. In the early 1990s, the U.S. government limited grazing rights on federal lands in order to protect the desert tortoise habitat. Why does that not surprise me? In 1993, Bundy, in protest, refused to renew his permit for cattle grazing and continued grazing his livestock on these public lands. What I read earlier was that his family had been grazing on this land for 150 years. Bundy said he didn't recognize the authority of the Bureau of Land Management over the sovereign state of Nevada. And that is a good point. Where in the Constitution does it empower the federal government to own land or to take land from other states? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the only place in the Constitution where it talks about the federal government owning property is Washington, D.C., and that's just a very small area. And that was a swamp, and they had to drain it, and now, we're having to drain it again. Things came to a head in 2014 when officials planned to capture and impound cattle trespassing on government land. Protesters, many armed, tried to block the authorities, which led to a standoff. Wow. Tensions escalated until officials, fearing for the general safety, announced they would return Bundy's cattle and suspend the roundup. Well, no kidding. You know, when you stand up against the federal government with arms, well, it doesn't always happen that way. I mean, look at the Branch Davidians. Some other people have been shot and killed. I believe that was under the Clinton administration. Wow. Well, it's good that they dropped the charges. I believe this man, Mr. Bundy, his two sons, and this other person, they were in prison for a long time. I think years before they finally got justice. Let's see what happens. Maybe Donald Trump will give this federal land back to the states. I'd like to see all federal property given back to the states where it truly belongs. It's not part of the federal government. Federal government should not be owning land anyways. Get rid of the Bureau of Land Management. Should be gone. Just my opinion. Okay. Well, I think we'll do some more news in segment 4, but right now that is about it for right now. We're out of time. I'm in a hurry to get on with Mark Walters from Armed American Radio. He's coming up here in segment 2. The guy is awesome. It's so easy to interview Mark because all I have to do is introduce him, ask one question, and then stop him when time is up. Because the guy, he's like a self-winding watch. He loves to talk and he says good things. So, Mark Walters, we are coming at you here in a couple of minutes. Go ahead and check out our sponsors, Elite Firearms and Training with Larry Jackson out of Middleville, and then Firearms Legal Protection. Check them out at firearmslegal.com/Midwest Tactical, and then go to armedamericanradio.com and check out Mark Walters. Okay, that's it for this segment. We'll be coming back to you in 2 minutes. This is Skip Coryell on the Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
My name is C.J. Coryell. Welcome to the Home Defense Show with my dad, Skip Coryell. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.
This is Skip Coryell from the Home Defense Show, and I want you to have the very best handgun that money can buy. And that's why we recommend you visit Larry Jackson at Elite Firearms and Training. As a concealed carry instructor, I see people every week out on the range with guns they can't shoot properly because they didn't know what to buy. That will never happen at Elite Firearms and Training. Larry Jackson will personally fit you with your very own personal defense pistol. So call Larry Jackson today at 616-299-8715 or visit elitefirearms.us.
This is Colonel Danny Gillum. I host Frontlines of Freedom, a weekly syndicated military talk radio show. One of my co-hosts is Skip Coryell, the host of this show. We cover things that impact military and veteran communities, and we do it from the veteran's perspective. The show is broadcast across the nation and is also available as a podcast on our website, frontlinesoffreedom.com. Please join Skip and me weekly on Frontlines of Freedom.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell, and as promised, we have online celebrity, radio broadcast celebrity, Mark Walters, the host of Armed American Radio. Mark, welcome to the Home Defense Show.
Skip, Happy New Year. Thanks for having me, brother. Always a pleasure.
All right, fantastic. Now, Mark, you're down in Georgia, so I got to ask, what's the temperature down there right now?
Well, you know, I'm gonna make it a little bit long-winded because it's kind of a fun story. It's funny you should ask that question. It's not near as cold as where you are, But I will say that I had a tankless water heater put in my house about 2 years ago, and the thing's been a godsend. It's endless hot water. But we're not used to freezing down here for long stretches of time. And the condensate tube where the water drips out of has been freezing. The little 1-inch tube that hangs outside the house and drips has been freezing, causing my water heater to time out on me so it doesn't damage itself, so it trips its own breaker. So I've been having to butane torch it to melt the water to get that little 1-inch piece of ice to pop out so it can drain. It's been a real hassle, and I don't know how you guys live where you live, but having said that, it is ice cold, brother. About 17 degrees when I got up this morning in Georgia.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, well, that is cold for Georgia.
Yeah.
I think right now it's 6 degrees where I'm at right now, but I'm in southern Michigan, so the people from northern Michigan, they kind of think of us as wusses down here in the south. But
Oh, yeah, and as you know, I lived in Ann Arbor, Michigan from the time I was 9 until 15. I spent a lot of time up north in the UP and up at Higgins Lake and Houghton's Lake and Torch Lake. I learned how to water ski on the back of Gordie Howe's boat with his son, the great hockey legend Mark Howe, on Bear Lake up there, and did a lot. I know the area very, very well. Lots of friends up there. Lots of firsts, during that age group. So at that age bracket from 9 to 15. So I hold that area very fondly in my heart. I really love it.
yeah, well, I know you can commiserate with us up here. Now,
I can, yes, I can.
Now, Mark, you have the. I've always thought of you as someone who has their finger on the pulse of gun-owning America. And so what I'm thinking is we can go over the year in review. I know you did a column for what should gun owners know about 2017, and then maybe in the next segment we can talk about, well, what should be working for or striving for in 2018.
First of all, gun owners cannot rest. There's been, as you know, this general feeling of complacency since the election in 2016. And look, I'll be the first one to admit that when I took to the airwaves the day of the election victory and the day after, I'm on the air 6 days a week, so that gives me a distinct advantage to be able to talk about these things in real time as they're unfolding. And I was able to come on the next day and say, look, well done, gun owners, well done. Because I'm convinced it was gun owners that put Donald Trump in the White House. There's no question about it. Had he not had the gun owner vote, had the NRA not supported him, and had he not spoken to the NRA at least on 2 separate occasions and campaigned in what I believe to be, and I think I'd be proven correct, was no doubt the single most pro-gun campaign in American history from a presidential candidate. Had gun owners not shown up, Donald Trump would not be in the White House, Neil Gorsuch would not be on the Supreme Court, Hillary Clinton would be running a crime syndicate, and this nation would be in constitutional crisis, and I believe that. So having said all that, I gave gun owners a big pass after the election, and I said, look, guys, congratulations. Take a break. It's been a long, very difficult 8 years under Barack Hussein Obama, the Marxist, and as a result of that, you've earned some time off. Take it up until the first of the year. Enjoy your holidays. Relax a little bit. But understand that come January 1st, we've got to get right back on our feet again. This is not a vacation that we can take. And I think a lot of gun owners kind of felt we won.
Mm-hmm.
We can breathe now for the next 4 years, and that couldn't be further from the truth. The enemies of our freedoms are more well-funded than they've ever been. And in fact, in that piece I wrote, was a separate piece I wrote for Ammo Land, I made mention of just how much money we're dealing with here. Let me give you a real number real fast. Michael Bloomberg, New York City obnoxious New York City, former obnoxious New York City mayor, Michael Bloomberg, always obnoxious former mayor, let me clarify that.
Mm-hmm.
His net worth is estimated to be at $47 billion. Now, Skip, you know you got a big net worth when it's estimated. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, that means you got a fat wallet. He has pledged hundreds of millions of dollars to the fight for our guns. Now, let me put in perspective how much money we're talking about. Michael Bloomberg can spend up to $3,200,000 plus a day, every day, 365 days a year for the next 40-plus years before he would exhaust that $47 billion. And that would be assuming a zero-sum game where he made no more money.
Right.
It's an endless supply of incredible wealth that we have to deal with, that he has pledged hundreds of millions of dollars over the years in the fight against our constitutional rights. This is nothing to sneeze at. He's had some victories, but this is what I want gun owners to take away from this. He's also been defeated where it counts. Mm-hmm. The Constitution isn't for sale, and Michael Bloomberg has found that to be the case. And it's a real shame that he's chosen to waste that kind of money in coming after Americans' constitutional rights. Imagine if he were a man who was spending that money to expand our constitutional rights and our freedoms. But the point that I'm trying to make is that we cannot rest. The enemies of our freedom, their entire agenda is based on lies and deceit. And if you look at armedamericanradio.com and scroll down to the 1-2 blurb that I put on the blog, what you'll see on the front of that page is when you put all of this in perspective and you look back and you think, the debate is non-existent. We won the debate. It was finalized December 15, 1791, the day the Bill of Rights was ratified. Okay? We don't have to base our agenda on lies and deceit. We have proof of our agenda written in our founding documents. Imagine having to be the other side. No amount of money can make that lie a reality, and no amount of money can revise history. But I'll tell you what, it does a hell of a job doing it at the ballot box when there are stupid voters involved. So it can buy elections, which can do us irreparable harm. And that's a long-winded version of saying you cannot rest. Mm-hmm. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I certainly agree. We notice the same thing up here, and you know, when I talk to my fellow concealed carry instructors all across the country, they tell me the same thing. The day after the election, you know, when Trump won, the phone stopped ringing, and there was a lull there. And you know, unfortunately, our industry seems to be a fear-based industry. If people aren't afraid for their lives or the lives of their loved ones, or if they're not afraid of their rights being taken away, i.e., you know, Hillary Clinton winning the election, then they tend to just relax, kick back, and not really do anything. So, yeah, I agree. You know, well, but what has happened under Trump? What in the past year? He's had a year now, almost.
Okay, let's take some takeaways. First, you know, you're absolutely right about that fear-mongering there. I could go in a lot of different directions. And I won't name names because these are all organizations that I'm a part of. I'm a member of many organizations. But I despise the fear-mongering emails that I get.
Yeah.
I despise the lies and the misinformation about fixed NICS somehow being a deal-breaker for concealed carry reciprocity. The facts are out there. You can find them. I won't go into them now. It would take more than the segment time that we have now. But I'm not a fan of those fear-mongering emails because what that does is it puts us in a catch-22. It's like living beyond your means on a credit card. You get paid and make a payment on the credit card and then live on the credit card again until you get paid and make another payment. You never get out of that cycle. And that's what this fear is that we're seeing with some of these emails that come out that are based on fear. We get into this trap. We get caught in this cycle, and then and this is why we lose elections. Okay? This is why in the next go-around, if we become complacent, Donald Trump can lose in 2020 because we got complacent. See, so that whole thing is, please don't, the facts are out there. Choose to remain ignorant at your own risk.
Yeah.
Advice you have in your pocket provides you an opportunity to go seek the truth, okay? So I wanted to get that out, but go ahead. I didn't mean to.
Well, Mark, I was just going to mention one nice thing that we have is Armed American Radio, because I know you talk about these things every single day, 6 out of 7 days a week. You're talking about these things, and if people want to be informed, they just listen to your show.
And we've got the A-list guest lineup. I've had everybody. I just ran some best of over the holidays. I'll be honest with you, in nearly 10 years, I've never missed a Sunday program in 10 years. As far as the daytime show, the only time I've ever missed sitting in the chair was when I was traveling or had some type of emergency. But for the most part, freedom never takes a break. And I'm very proud of that record. And over the weekend, I was able to play because the holidays fell on the Sunday, and I, like everybody else, took time to be with my family on the holidays. But I went back and I played some best of. My interview with Sean Hannity, my interview with Ann Coulter. You know, we've talked to the biggest, these are A-list people who, it speaks volumes to what the information that we're giving out on Armed American Radio. And I'm very, very proud of that, to be out 6 days over the nation's airwaves like that. And when you consider the repeat broadcasts and stuff, the voice of Armed American Radio is running 7 days a week, all hours of the day and night, somewhere across the country. And I'm proud of that. I think it's quite an accomplishment. It says a lot that we've had that staying power, and no doubt we'll have more of it in the coming years ahead.
Yeah, I'm sure that. Actually, I'm proud to be your friend, because, boy, you and I met. What was it, like 2008 or something?
Yeah, somewhere right around the time of the inception of the broadcast. You're right.
Yeah. It was a good time to get to know each other, actually, because it's been.
It was perfect timing. Of course, that spilled over into the Second Amendment march in D.C. and everything else. But you asked about where are we? What were some of the positive things? We like to focus on the negative, don't we? It's easy to build a radio program or a podcast or a column about the negative things. It's easy to fight. What I wanted to do was take away the top 5 gun rights stories of 2017, and I wanted to keep them positive if I could. It wasn't like I had to look far. Out of the top 5 stories, and these are subjective. All lists are subjective unless they're based on some type of numerical or bona fide scientific data, like the top 5 selling cars in the U.S. in 2017. It's hard to argue with what was bought and sold.
Right.
Those numbers are real, and we know that maybe the Honda Accord sold more than any other, so we have those. That's not a subjective list. But when you pick a top 5 of anything, it tends to be. So I like the discussion that this opens up. And I wanted to stay focused on positives, and I didn't want to focus on a quote-unquote mass shooting as one of the stories. Unfortunately, I was forced to put Vegas in there, but I was forced to put the Vegas shooting in there for a reason, and that was the criteria that I set for myself to use to determine what I thought were the top 5 stories. So in order of 5 on down, how much time do we have in this segment?
I tell you, let's cut this segment right now, and then we come back. You can start your list. Okay, Mark?
Sounds great.
Okay, folks, this is Skip Coryell on Home Defense Show. Take a 2-minute break, check out our sponsors, and then go to armedamericanradio.com and check out Mark Walters as well. This is Skip Coryell on Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
This is Felix Coryell on the Home Defense Show. Always use guns safely and wisely. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
This is Skip Coryell from the Home Defense Show, and I want to talk to you about keeping your kids safe around guns. I've never been a big fan of trigger locks, but I have to tell you, I have found a product called Child Safe One. It's a trigger blocker, not a trigger lock, and it works fantastic. I tried it out on my kids, and they could not get the Child Safe One off the training gun. I gave them 5 minutes. I sat there and I watched them, and they couldn't do it. Folks, I am satisfied, more than satisfied, that my kids are safe around Child Safe One. Here's the good thing about it. I can get that lock off the gun in under 2 seconds, but my kids can't even figure out how it works. Child Safe One is a win-win for everyone in the family. My wife's happy because she knows the guns are secure. My kids are happy because they're safe. And I'm happy because when the wolf comes a-knocking, I've got that gun cocked, locked, and ready to rock in less than 2 seconds. So go to globalgunsafety.com and get Child Safe One today. That's globalgunsafety.com. Check it out now and tell them the Home Defense Show sent you. Hey folks, I want to tell you about my book, Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book. More and more people across the country are seeing the dangers in society and are deciding to carry concealed to protect themselves and their families. My new book lays it out step by step. It'll teach you how to protect and defend the ones you love. Get the benefit of 17 years of teaching experience and a lifetime of training for this important role in society and in your family. You can get Civilian Combat real easy. Just go to Amazon.com, search on Skip Coryell Civilian Combat, and it'll pop right up there. Don't put it off any longer. Get Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book by yours truly.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if life was like the movies and the good guys always won? In today's world, if you're forced to use your firearm to protect yourself, you will need protection. Firearms Legal Protection is here for you. FLP provides you with seasoned, experienced attorneys that handle your criminal and civil matters as a result of you protecting yourself. FirearmsLegal.com provides its members with uncapped attorney's fees, bail bond protection, and coverage in all 50 states. We are not a reimbursement plan. You can access uncapped attorney's fees for as low as $10 a month. Firearms Legal members are provided with educational services, training videos, and access to our vast national attorney network. While you're protecting yourself, let Firearms Legal protect you.
Listen up, folks. This is important. There are plenty of legal protection services out there, but none will protect you as well as Firearms Legal Protection. This is the one I use and the only one I recommend. Visit firearmslegal.com/Midwest Tactical and protect your family now. Okay, folks, this is Skip Coryell on Home Defense Show. We are speaking with Mark Walters, host of Armed American Radio. Mark, when we left, you were speaking about top 5 gun stories for 2017. Just launch right into that, Mark.
Yeah, like I said at the previous break when we were going into break, that lists are subjective, and the point that I was bring out these stories and then get a feel from you. What do you think I missed on the list? What would you have added, or maybe you would have pulled something off? And I wanted to open that discussion. And I said I didn't want to focus on a mass shooting, but I was forced for Vegas because it was national in scope. It wasn't just something that happened in Vegas. It was national in scope in the sense that, and my number 5 story for the year was the Las Vegas shooting, and I tied that with Trump overturning of Obama's Social Security gun ban. I tied those two for 5. Mm-hmm. And the reason that I had to put Vegas in there was because the end result of the Vegas shooting was the fact that it resulted in a call for a complete ban of a product that was so obscure. Most people, except the gearheads like us, really never knew it existed. Yeah. None of the Democrats, none of the Republicans in the White House or in the House of Representatives or the Senate had even heard of a bump stock. Mm-hmm. Now they're immediately calling for a ban, and a ban of anything related to our right to bear arms is an infringement, and as far as I'm concerned, a constitutional violation, which is why I put the Vegas shooting in there. The Social Security gun ban, of course, Trump went in with the stroke of a pen, wiped out Obama's attempt to put thousands, hundreds of thousands of new names on the prohibited buyers list at the NICS level. So I thought those two tied for number 5. Number 4 was the Wren versus D.C. case. Why that and not the Peruta case in California? You know, these cases, the Wren v. D.C. case, for those that might not know, was a circuit court victory, but it eliminated the good cause requirement for exercise of a fundamental right in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. And this pro-rights decision was so well written that a number of liberal state gun grabbers, governors, and attorneys general pleaded with the District of Columbia not to appeal the case to the Supreme Court because they knew that case would be lost, thereby wiping out more of their unconstitutional gun controls in their blue states, mm-hmm. i.e. California, New York, Connecticut, and others said, don't appeal that loss because you're going to lose it at the Supreme Court. That tells me that the Dems know that their agenda is built on a house of cards and that we're eventually going to take it down. The Wren v. D.C. case was a huge victory for gun owners, not just in the circuit, but nationwide, because it proved we're going to win this fight, and they know it. That's why they didn't want it appealed. The third was H.R. 38, of course, is National Concealed Carry Reciprocity. That is that is the single best piece of pro-gun legislation written in my lifetime. Don't believe the hype about the fixed NICS and all this negative crap that you're hearing about it. The second, of course, was the confirmation of Neil Gorsuch, his nomination and subsequent confirmation to the Supreme Court of the United States. That cemented my children and your children's gun rights for generations to come. That was a huge victory for gun rights. And, of course, it couldn't have been done if it weren't for the election and then eventual in 2017 in January, the inauguration of Donald Trump, which in my estimation was the single greatest thing that happened to gun owners in my lifetime because it saved the Second Amendment. And if you want to debate me on that, merely start from the premise of what would have happened if Hillary Clinton had won. None of what I told you would have occurred. So yeah. I put those in the top 5. Feel free to add to it or to take away from it or tell me you think I was wrong or I missed something.
Just hypothetically, let's say we go back in time, Hillary Clinton wins the election, she's inaugurated. What would America look like right now at this moment?
Well, we would, first of all, from a gun rights perspective, be staring down, or we would have been knocked off the precipice, Hillary Clinton victory. We were standing at the precipice during the 2016 election, on election night. We were right at the edge. Mm-hmm. And had Hillary Clinton won that election, the number one factor would be the replacement for Justice Scalia would have been someone far worse than Merrick Garland, who was Barack Obama's pick and widely regarded as a gun-hating judge to begin with. Hillary Clinton may or may not have gone with Gorsuch. More than likely she would not have. Presidents like to put their own stamp on things, and she wouldn't have just rubber-stamped Barack Obama's selection. The selection to the Supreme Court would have devastated, absolutely devastated the right to keep and bear arms. And now some of you are probably thinking right now, well, we've got a Republican Senate. They would have never let that happen. Seriously? Lindsey Graham, John McCain, and the rest of them? You don't think they would have? They've voted to confirm every one of Barack Obama's picks. Yeah, you want me to do a Lindsey Graham impersonation? Well, elections have consequences, and the president has a right to select who he is, and Justice Elena Kagan is just wonderful in my book. What else do I need to tell you about what would have happened with a Supreme Court pick from Hillary Clinton? The Second Amendment would have been gutted without cases even having to get to the Supreme Court, because Hillary Clinton would have filled a record number of lower court appointments, many of them a lifetime on the federal bench, that would have decimated the right to bear arms over the years at the lower courts, meaning a liberal court would never have agreed to take the case and even consider overturning it. It would have been absolutely devastating.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, 2016 was it was the record year for me as far as teaching concealed carry. I mean, I taught over 1,000 students, and that was just for one person to do that. That was incredible. And I think probably that would have gone on for another 6-8 months or so until the Second Amendment was gutted. And eventually something like that would have trickled down into the states, into the state of Michigan, Georgia, wherever. And we would have incrementally lost all of these rights that we've been fighting for decades now. Mark, what has Donald Trump done for the Second Amendment as far as executive orders? Because I know there hasn't been a whole lot done legislatively.
Well, the biggest thing that he did was wipe out Barack Obama's, and I like to refer to Obama as what's-his-face and Hillary as what's-her-face, because they're both has-beens. Whatever legacy, if you want to call it a legacy, that what's-his-face had, Barack Obama, is being dismantled right now because it was all built. Like I said, a house of cards is a good analogy. He built his house of cards and his legacy on executive orders. I have a phone and a pen, and I'll use them both. Well, yoo-hoo, good for you, because as soon as we get you out of there, we're going to use a phone and a pen, and we don't even need the phone. Mm-hmm. We're just going to wipe it out with a pen. That's what Donald Trump is doing. He has taken down hundreds of regulations put in place by Barack Obama, but the most important one of all was the Social Security, the gun ban. You've heard about it,
yeah.
The Social Security gun ban, where someone could be, an 80-year-old vet could say, you know what, son, I'm tired of my finances. Can you take my finances for me? And Barack Obama was going to take his firearms because all of a sudden he was adjudicated a mental defective. Because at 80 years old, he didn't want to take care of his finances. He wanted his daughter or his son to run his finances, or a third party. And there were thousands of people that were going to be put on by Barack Obama, single-handedly, unilateral, one man,
yeah.
A gun-grabbing Marxist America hater who said you're not allowed to buy a gun at the stroke of a pen. Donald Trump wiped that out. And I think that was the most important thing he's done. But that's what he's done. But what he's done mentally and psychologically for us as gun owners is he's made us realize that we're not losing, that we are in fact winning, and that we can win. There's a downside to that too, and that's called complacency, and that's what we were talking about at the beginning of the first segment together,
yeah.
Was that gun owners feel emboldened right now, and that evidenced in gun sales decreasing. But I guess I got to point out here too, when you look at these numbers, are gun sales decreasing over 16 and 50? Yeah, they are. But they are still at record highs. They're just not increasing as high. Black Friday, highest NICS check ever performed in history. That's the greatest indicator that we have of gun sales going through the roof. So the entire narrative from the left is a flat-out lie, and of course their friends in the mainstream media are pushing that agenda, and Donald Trump, by fighting the agenda, fighting the mainstream media, which I'm thoroughly enjoying watching his takedown of the press and his disrobing of these liars and charlatans, but combine that with a pro-gun attitude, with the pen that he'll use, with legislation that he will sign, the left has nothing left but Michael Bloomberg's money to spread disinformation and lies. And I know that was a big roundabout deal, but that's what talk radio hosts do. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, Mark, talk about national reciprocity, because, people on our side, thought that, what, Donald Trump gets in there, national reciprocity is going to be a reality. The first 3 months, people were all excited about that. But yet, it just drags on and on and on and on, and nothing seems to be happening. What's up with that?
Well, that's because you've got swamp critters in there by the names of Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell. Now, Paul Ryan single-handedly stopped H.R. 38 from moving through the House. That bill was presented on January 3rd of 2016. That bill could have been heard in February. It could have been heard immediately. Paul Ryan intentionally sat on that. I interviewed Representative Thomas Massey on my radio broadcast, who told my listening audience that the only reason that hadn't moved was because Paul Ryan told him he didn't think it was the right time. He didn't want to move it. And I have that on the show. Breitbart followed up and wrote about the interview. Paul Ryan went and listened to the interview, and from what I understand, made a call to Thomas Massey's office based on what was said on Armed American Radio. So it's good to know that people at that level are at least listening to the program. You never know what kind of impact that you have, but that's all that we can document that. But the fact of the matter is that national reciprocity is the single greatest piece of legislation I've ever seen. Now, you can go back to the absolutist mentality. We shouldn't need a permit to begin with, and I absolutely agree with that. Florida gave us the modern permitting process that we have back in 1987 with their landmark bill that then steamrolled across the country and gave us the permit process we have today. So we can make that argument. Well, we shouldn't need a permit. Well, here's the reality. We have permits. Mm-hmm. That's the reality. Whether you like that or not, that's where we are today. That's the arena that we're forced to play in. National reciprocity gets us one step closer to constitutional carry and the Second Amendment as our carry permit by forcing those blue states who don't want to recognize our right to bear arms to do just that. And it's not a federal law. It's simply a recognition of a license. You still must follow the rules of the state that you're in. But here's the key. Those rules will begin to fall. Mm-hmm. Just like taxes are going to drop in Connecticut and New York because of the tax law that was just signed. Eventually, those gun control laws are going to fall, and I go right back to what I was talking about, the Wren D.C. case, which is why all those bluebies and the governors and the attorneys general didn't want Washington to appeal that, and they wanted them to suck up that loss because they know their laws are built on a house of cards. They know they're going to crumble. So we're winning this victory. You can tie everything back together. I hope that made sense.
Yeah, Mark, we were talking about how, the gun activists, gun rights activists, we are a fear-based industry. But, I have to think that the far left, that they're also fear-based. I mean, if you look at their emails, the rhetoric that they put out there, it's all based on fear. Everyone's going to die. So,
they're terrible about it. And then if you go back, and I've based a lot of, I thank them for sending those emails. I've been kicked off the email list a number of times, but I'm like the head of a snake. I keep reemerging until they find out who I am again, and then they kick me off again, because I use those emails against them every single day. Look, the left has never, and I say the left because it's the political left. If you're a Democrat gun owner, well, you figure out how you sleep at night. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you that right now. You're not a friend of mine. If you're pulling a lever for people like Hillary Clinton and you call yourself a gun rights supporter, the two don't jive. So you reconcile that in your own brain. I don't know what else to tell you, but you're pulling the lever for the enemies of our freedoms who have never met a gun control bill or a confiscation or a ban suggestion that they've never embraced. Not one time. And if you're pulling the lever for those people, you have to reconcile in your own head, and you have to live with yourself. I don't know how you do it. There are options out there. Please take a look at them. But as we are based on fear, it's Hillary Clinton's going to take away our guns. Well, I'm not so sure how much fear is that? Hillary Clinton did want to take away our guns. That statement is rooted in fact.
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
The other side is fighting a constitution. They're fighting against an enumerated right. We're not doing that. The truth is on our side. And here's the beautiful part. If these gun grabbers wanted to ever stand up, I've often said this. I respect Piers Morgan. As much as I can't stand him, I respect him for one reason. You know where he stands. Yeah. He makes no bones about the fact that he wants to wipe out America's gun ownership. And I respect the fact that he's got the guts to say it. Barack Obama, we knew where he stood, but he wouldn't say it. Hillary Clinton, we knew where she stood, but she wouldn't say it. In fact, not only would they say it, they lie about their position, which is what Bloomberg does, which is what every town does. Tell us where you stand, then do yourself a favor. Our Constitution is written and designed in such a way that you can start the process of changing it. Mm-hmm. Good luck with that. Let's see how far you get.
Yeah.
That's why I know that freedom will always win. That's why I know that freedom will always prevail, because even if people don't own guns or like guns, they don't want someone telling them they can't. That's the American way, and that's why we'll always win, regardless of the size of Bloomberg's wallet. That doesn't mean we can lay down, because individual elections matter. That's why we wind up with Connecticut, New York, and this goofball California petri dish of now ammunition background checks and everything else. We haven't even touched on that yet. So, Good heavens.
Well, Mark, we're out of time, but I think this is a good place to leave it, because you've ended on an optimistic note, and what I'm reminded of is Sir Edmund Burke: all that evil needs to flourish is for good men to do nothing. So we can't be complacent. Correct. We've got to fight just like we've always fought. Mark, thank you very, very much for your insight, for being on the Home Defense Show. We appreciate you very much. Everyone, head on out there and go ahead and be with ArmedAmericanRadio.com.
Awesome. Thank you, Skip. Appreciate it very much.
Okay, folks, head on out to ArmedAmericanRadio.com. Check out Mark Walters, everything that he does, and then check out our sponsors here in the next 2 minutes. When I come back, we'll have the wrap-up, and I'll tell you what I really think about all things Armed American Radio and gun rights in America. This is Skip Coryell, Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Welcome to my dad's Home Defense Radio show. You're gonna love it.
Hey folks, I want to tell you about my book, Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book. More and more people across the country are seeing the dangers in society and are deciding to carry concealed to protect themselves and their families. My new book lays it out step by step. It'll teach you how to protect and defend the ones you love. Get the benefit of 17 years of teaching experience and a lifetime of training for this important role in society and in your family. You can get Civilian Combat real easy. Just go to Amazon.com, search on Skip Coryell Civilian Combat, and it'll pop right up there. Don't put it off any longer. Get Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book by yours truly, Skip Coryell.
This is Colonel Danny Gillum. I host Frontlines of Freedom, a weekly syndicated military talk radio show. One of my co-hosts is Skip Coryell, the host of this show. We cover things that impact military and veteran communities, and we do it from the veteran's perspective. The show is broadcast across the nation and is also available as a podcast on our website, frontlinesoffreedom.com. Please join Skip and me weekly on Frontlines of Freedom.
This is Skip Coryell from the Home Defense Show, and I want you to have the very best handgun that money can buy. And that's why we recommend you visit Larry Jackson at Elite Firearms and Training. As a concealed carry instructor, I see people every week out on the range with guns they can't shoot properly because they didn't know what to buy. That will never happen at Elite Firearms and Training. Larry Jackson will personally fit you with your very own personal defense pistol. So call Larry Jackson today at 616-299-8715 or visit elitefirearms.us. Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. I love that Mark Walters from Armed American Radio. Guy's fantastic. Not only is he a good friend, but he's just a good guy to know. I tell you, the first time I met Mark Walters was at the SHOT Show. Oh, when was it? 2009, I think, maybe. But, you know, he had interviewed me a couple of times when I was doing the Second Amendment March, but, you know, he was just a really good guy. I mean, he knew everybody there, and everybody knew him. And he said, hey, let me take you around the floor, introduce you to everybody. And, you know, he introduced me to the NRA and to, you know, Tim Schmidt and all the big players, Second Amendment Foundation, everybody. And he just gave me a lot of professional contacts, and he helped me out. And then he ended up becoming a White Feather Press author, and I've helped him in his publishing career as well, and it's just been a great symbiotic relationship. So if you don't listen to Armed American Radio, man, you need to do that. You know, his daily defense show is on an hour every day, I believe at 4 p.m. You can go to armedamericanradio.com and check that out. And then the big show that he talks about is on Sunday night. So just go to armedamericanradio.com, check out all things Mark Walters and Armed American Radio, and you will not be disappointed. Now, a couple of things. I just finished some training. Last week. I was in Detroit Thursday and Friday, which, by the way, I don't like going to Detroit. It seems like a good place to get mugged or carjacked, but not really a good place to socialize. I was there for training. I was at a gun range, so it wasn't so bad. I was taking Michigan Coalition for Responsible Gun Owners instructor concealed pistol license course to become certified to teach CPL classes under the auspices of Michigan Coalition for Responsible Gun Owners. And I didn't really look forward to going there, primarily because I knew it was going to be an entry-level course. And, I had already been through the NRA's course. I'd been through, United States Concealed Carry Association's instructor course. And, I just thought, well, what more could I learn? It's going to be all review, and I'm just not going to enjoy myself. But, I was so wrong. The instructors there, Audrey and Jeremy Danielson, were just awesome. Very good people. Audrey even helped me get a motel, which turned out to be in a high-crime neighborhood, but, maybe she figured I could handle it, or that I could, clean up the neighborhood while I was there. I don't know. But, hey, it turned out okay. They were fantastic. Course was fun. And the three other guys that I was taking the class with, they weren't newbies. One was a retired police lieutenant. Another one has retired from SWAT. And then the third one was a seasoned competition shooter. And so I learned a lot. I learned things I didn't think I was going to learn. So I want to thank Tom and Andy and Richard for that class. You guys made something that I thought was going to be very basic and maybe even boring to be quite a bit more advanced, and I enjoyed it a lot. So guys, thanks a lot. And Audrey and Jeremy, thank you very much. I appreciate the 2 days that we had last Thursday and Friday. When we had a great time on the range as well. It was awesome. Okay, some more training here. A couple of weeks ago, I think last week, I ordered a brand new training program from the United States Concealed Carry Association. It's called Countering the Mass Shooter Threat. And it was written by Michael Martin, who did the USCCA's original concealed carry course, which is very good as well. And in USCCA, they just do it so well, so top-notch. This book, I've got it in my hand right here. It's all color, glossy, good information. This guy, Michael Martin, he just did his homework on this. I think he said it took him 3 years to do all of the research on this. But if you would like to know all about mass shooters, mass killers, their profile, their psychology, all of that stuff, plus how to actually stop that threat, then Countering the Mass Shooter Threat. I think you can get it on Amazon from USCCA, or go on USCCA's website and order it from them. I believe it's $27.95, but man, I got to tell you, it's really, really good. I am taking their instructor course right now, because I'm already a USCCA instructor, so I can just take the online course, get certified to teach this. And this is what I'm going to be teaching when I'm teaching churches, businesses, in schools, how to prepare for a mass shooter event and how to mitigate the damage. So look for that, USCCA, Countering the Mass Shooter Threat. Awesome job. Now, I wanted to go, we're getting more and more email now. The show is growing by leaps and bounds. So, most of you are sending fantastic comments, and you're very helpful and encouraging. But, I got this one email this past week. And I can have 100 emails that say, "Oh, Skip, you're doing great. It's fantastic." But I get that one booger of an email that is just negative as can be. And You know, as you recall, last week on the show, we interviewed Tom Lambert, president of Michigan Open Carry. And I asked Tom, what are the advantages and disadvantages of open carry? And I thought he did a great job and an honest job answering the question. But then I received this one email from a listener, and here's what he said. Quote, "My opinion is that open carry is simply stupid. Open carry is practiced by people who want to show off and get shot first. I do believe that open carry should not be illegal, however. We don't need more laws to legislate common sense. The open carry option should be legal even if it is foolish and dangerous." End quote. Well, when I get email like this, I'm always leery of three things. 1, blanket statements. 2, unsupported opinions. 3, unmerited anger. I didn't respond to the listener in person for a couple of reasons. First, I doubt he'd listen to the podcast. Second, emails like this usually are just emotional venting. And third, I think this person isn't open to a free exchange of ideas. In other words, his mind is closed. But I have been thinking about his email with an open mind, and here is my response. Let's break it down. He wrote, "My opinion is that open carry is simply stupid." The problem here is he doesn't go on to explain why he thinks open carry is stupid, so I'm left to assume or simply guess. But that wouldn't be based in fact, so I'm not going to do that. He simply makes a blanket statement and unsupported opinion that, hey, I think that's stupid. Then he wrote, "Open carry is practiced by people who want to show off and get shot first." Well, I don't really think that's true. I know a lot of people who open carry, and not a one of them claims to be doing it because he wants to die. Perhaps he's referring to the belief by some that if you open carry, you will be targeted for your gun, or you'll be the first person shot in a robbery if they see your gun. I could address this, but I think Tom Lambert did a great job, so I'll simply refer this listener to episode 59 of the podcast that he obviously didn't listen to. Now, I have seen some open carriers who just want to show off and to get their 15 minutes of fame on YouTube. But those people are by far the exception to the rule. Most people who open carry do it for a myriad of valid and innocent reasons. Every once in a while, we see concealed carriers who do incredibly stupid things as well. But is it rational and fair to stereotype and judge an entire community just because a few idiots do stupid things? I don't think so. And then the emailer wrote, "I do believe that open carry should not be illegal, however. We don't need more laws to legislate common sense." I'm so happy he stopped short of making a constitutional and human right illegal. Thank you for your graciousness. Finally, he ended by saying, "The open carry option should be legal even if it is foolish and dangerous." Isn't that a matter of opinion? Again, I'll refer the listener to Tom's defense of open carry on episode 59. I don't think I can improve on that. Here's my opinion on open carry. Hey, it's legal. It's constitutional. It's a God-given human right. I firmly believe that carrying a firearm is a choice, and whether you conceal it or openly display it, it's no one else's business. It's your God-given right, whether hidden or revealed, so wear your gun with pride. Personally, I prefer to carry concealed in urban areas just because I don't want to bring attention to myself, and I don't want to be hassled by the police. But that speaks to my personality more than anything else. But when I'm out in the country, close to home, pumping gas, mowing the lawn, or walking in the woods, I just don't want to be bothered with extra cover garments. I believe that your choice of carry method is just that, your choice, and no one should ridicule or judge you for it, and they certainly shouldn't call you stupid and foolish. That's my opinion, and my opinion plus $1.49 will get you a large cup of coffee at McDonald's. Well, folks, I was going to do some more news, but it would appear that we are out of time already. Folks, I've had a great time with you today. When I get done here, I'm going to head on out to the chicken coop, get some more eggs, and then I'm going to check on Mr. Hawk, because, I don't know, he just seemed too cooperative to me. So I will check out Mr. Hawk and keep him honest. Next week on the Home Defense Show, what are we going to do? I would love to get a hold of the Bundys. If any of you can put me in touch with the Bundys or any of their representatives or anyone who is fluent on that case, I would love to delve deeper into that. All right. Between now and next week, don't forget to head on out to Amazon.com and pick up my book, Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry book. That'll be a good read. And check out our sponsors, Firearms Legal Protection. Go to firearmslegal.com/Midwest Tactical. And then go to elitefirearms.us to check out Larry Jackson and all he has to offer in personally fitting you with your own concealed carry gun. Okay, folks, that about wraps it up for this week's episode of the Home Defense Show. Until next week, remember your purpose in life is to find something greater than yourself and serve it. Always remember, God, family, country, in that order. It's important how you live, but it's equally important how you die. Your family and the ones you love need your protection, so train, always train, stay alert, stay alive. Until next week on the Home Defense Show, this is your host, Skip Coryell. God bless you, God bless your family, and God bless America.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Home Defense Show. Now, get out there and protect the ones you love. We'll see you next week with more of the best in home defense.
Bye-bye, boys! Have fun storming the castle!